Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, and welcome to the third installation of Givebutter webinars, the second of our virtual event series. We're streaming to you live from Harlem, Chicago, Fort Worth, Port Washington, Simi Valley, Rhode Island. It's an incredible group that we have here today. You have pioneers in the virtual event nonprofit space. We have so much to share, but first, I want to hear from you. Where are you streaming from? We have a webinar today, so that means we got a chat going. We have a Q&A. If you want to drop your location in the chat, would love to hear where you are calling from. Hey, Kelly. Hey, Yolanda. There's a setting that says all panelists and attendees, or just attendees, or all just the panelists. Feel free to put whatever you want there, but just so you know, there's different options. So we might only see what you say, or everyone can see, but hey, wow, people from all over. Salem, hey, Margot. Hey, Joy, Sacramento. Mary in Knoxville, it's awesome. Hope the weather's good wherever you're calling from. I wanted to also say before we get started that, again, since this is a webinar, we want to make it as engaging as possible. As much as I can, we have 5 amazing panelists today. I'm going to try to step into the background and let them share their stories and the amazing events that they've pulled off. So please leave your questions in the Q&A throughout. The chat is great if you want to just chat in some quick, with other panelists and attendees and do some networking or any general questions. The Q&A will also be used for answering questions both live and as we go through and talk about the events. So without further ado, the quick overview here, we have a welcome and introductions. We're going to breeze through those. I'll give a quick bio on these incredible panelists. I'll try to keep them short, which is hard. We're going to do a behind the scenes, about 3 minutes each, just to give you all context about their events that they had and some of the results from those events. You have a little bit about, who we're talking with here today. And then we're going to spend the majority of the time, 40 minutes, in a Q&A format. So I've prepared some questions, but I really want to hear from all of you what you would want to know and what you would want to learn from our panelists here today. So if you don't know me, my name is Max. I'm the CEO of Givebutter. We're a fundraising platform that powers millions in donations for thousands of nonprofits. We do fundraising, which is where we started, just online fundraising campaigns. And in recent years, we added donation forms. So you could be a donate button on your website. We can also help you run your events online. And that's what we're going to focus on and talk about today. We try to pair industry best practices like peer-to-peer with new technologies like Venmo and text to donate. And we're really proud of the users, the people who've taken this platform and done amazing things with it. So yeah, my email and my Twitter down there. Please feel free to reach out with any questions that you have. Here's a quick overview of sort of what the Givebutter platform looks like. We founded the company with the idea of raising more, paying less, and giving better. And that's where the name comes from, building a better way to give. So without further ado, I want to introduce our panelists here today. Wendy is the founder of the Wendy Hilliard Gymnastics Foundation, which provides free and low-cost gymnastics for over 20,000 urban youth in Harlem and Detroit. Wendy was the first African-American to represent the U.S. in rhythmic gymnastics, to become president of the Women's Sports Foundation, and is in the USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame. We're so lucky to have Wendy here today. We also have Michelle Neff Hernandez. Michelle is the founder and executive director of Soaring Spirits International, a nonprofit organization providing peer support programming for widowed people worldwide. Michelle has received a local, state, and national recognition for her work in founding Soaring Spirits, including a letter of recognition from Vice President Joe Biden. Thank you so much for being here, Michelle. We also have Mark Rummel, the Marketing and Engagement Director for Trinity Habitat for Humanity. We all know Habitat for Humanity. We bring people together to build hope, homes, community, and hope. lots of hope, lots of homes, lots of communities. And Trinity is one of the best in the country at doing that. They're one of the top 10 largest Habitat affiliates in the United States based on the number of houses built and repaired each year. Thank you, Mark. We also have Amanda Greenwald, the Director of Advancement for B'nai Jeshurun, which is a nearly 200-year-old non-affiliated synagogue in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Amanda has served as a youth director, an educator, and director of congregational engagement in synagogues on Long Island for more than 14 years. Thank you so much, Amanda, for being here. And one more, we have Mandy Moody, the Director of Development from Green City Market, which is paving a path for new path for the local food economy in the Midwest by deepening our support for small family farmers, educating consumers and the next generation of eaters, and increasing access to local, healthy, sustainable food. Love that mission. Prior to joining Green City Market as its Director of Development, Mandy raised more than $10 million in development revenue, as well as led a small team to conduct a multi-million-dollar capital campaign. As I said, these panelists are amazing. We have so much to learn from them. So I'm going to take a step back and introduce our first panelist, or let our first panelist take it from here, Wendy.
Thanks, Max. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. And this is a really interesting and exciting webinar to be a part of, because, you know, when we started, we were like many other organizations. We were planning to have our on-site fundraiser on May 20th. Well, you know how that went. So making the pivot was very scary because it was really quite early in the process. And we were, you know, there weren't a lot of virtual at this time. I mean, when you look at time now, it seems like everyone's doing them, but back in April and May, it was not the case. And so to figure out how to do this was really challenging. And I was really nervous. I tell you, I was nervous up until our event, which was in June 10th. So I will say that deciding to do it was important, as we all have to keep fundraising. But I have to say, Givebutter, so I met Max through RXR agency. And then I also had a great production team, Karen and Frank from Women Support Women Foundation, and they do a lot of productions. But it was really, really scary. But I will say this, and thank you to Max and his team, because they really held our hand. So our event required a lot of gymnastics performances, you're right, on Zoom. My staff had to choreograph routines on Zoom. We got a lot of really wonderful testimonials from people, and you would think it was really easy, but putting it all together. So here was the first tip, is that it was taped to be live, looked like it was live, and it really did look like it was live. That was the biggest thing. I don't know what I was thinking to think that we were going to do this live, with how internet is and YouTube and the connections. So that was the first important thing. But also, I will say that what I really loved about, for one, Givebutter system, we hadn't done a lot of peer-to-peer fundraising before. And when the event started, the fact that as people were donating, they were able to, you know, write messages and really be engaged was very, very important. It was really a lot of fun once the event got going. And you have to understand, the technical part is really what you need someone to hold your hand through, right? It's always tough to fundraise, but this technical going virtual was really important. And so Max and Givebutter, the platform was great. The promotion of it was wonderful, right? And so what's really exciting, it's really so funny. So one of my board members, this is what she likes best. She likes best that we get an email saying that someone donated and you can thank them right away. She just thought that was the greatest thing since last spread. But it is true, because it's that type of engagement with your donors right away, right when they give, and you can contact them, which just feels very personal. And it was very personal. So, you know, we were able to raise over $70,000, and we still keep getting donations. We just got one like 2 days ago. And so what's really wonderful is that it lives for a long time. It was very exciting as the event was going on. The technical part is what you really want to have a team that knows what they're doing, because it's a lot. It's really a lot. But the thing is it looked great. It still looks great. And I really want to say those that are thinking about it, you just got to jump in. One of those things. It can be scary, but the event itself was really fun. And I'm just really grateful to the support. And I still really enjoy the Givebutter platform because as I mentioned, it's still going live. The event is still there, so people can still enjoy it. And it just looks great. So that was my 2-minute story. I think I'm passing it on to Michelle. Is it Michelle's turn?
Thanks so much, Wendy. Awesome tips. Thank you for passing it along. And I'll agree with you. We also did our event in May. At that time, we actually thought there might be a short-lived time where people were just going to be sitting in front of their computers. So we kind of felt like we wanted to hurry up and get there. Here we are in already September. So it's been a really interesting process for us to go from live events to what we did, which was a 24-hour telethon. We did do it live. So one of the questions for me was how long should you stream your event for? And I would say it really depends on what kind of event you're doing. One of the reasons we chose Givebutter was because of that live stream ability. And while we were worried about what would happen if we lost connectivity in any way, thankfully, actually that did not happen even one time, believe it or not. We considered 24 hours straight, then I realized maybe that's crazy. So instead we did 2 12-hour days, which also was a little bit crazy, but it was exciting. It was basically half-hour segments of different elements, from psychoeducation about the widowed experience to live entertainment, music, comedians. We did a cooking show. We did a live derby. So for the Kentucky Derby, we did live making of cocktails. So we tried to keep it fun and light, and especially because the community that we support, the widowed community, is often viewed in their devastation and sort of in the sadness of what we do. But the flip side of what we do is help people rebuild their lives. And so we wanted this live stream to really be an example of how we do that and the different ways in which we support people. And that really came through with that live stream. The platform that we use, so we live stream to Facebook. I would say, obviously, you're going to choose whatever platform your audience is engaging in most. We get the most engagement sort of based on age demographic on Facebook. And so we live stream from Facebook. But what was super exciting was that people were live streaming our whole content. They just left it on all day long, they said, and then they would just come in and they'd hear something crazy going on in the background and like come into their computer to go, what are they doing now? And so it really had kind of that element of anything could happen because it was live. And I think that added to it. First of all, for my team, I will admit, I have an incredible team of people who work with us. Our global operations manager, Jenny Sellers, was the one who really kind of dove into the Givebutter element and found you because we were looking for text to give, to be frank. Like we were like, okay, if we're gonna do this live stream thing, we're gonna have to do text to give, or a telethon, we're gonna do text to give. Then we realized we could live stream. It was like, okay, this is definitely gonna be the platform that we use. And we had never run a virtual event before, not at this level anyways. And so we just needed to be flexible. So my best advice to you, if you're planning on running a live event, is make it live. Really in person, people, if something happens unexpectedly, then I was the host of these 24 hours, and I was sitting on a resistance ball at one point because I was tired of sitting in a chair, but unfortunately that made me bounce. And so one of my team texted me, stop bouncing. And I was like, oh, sorry, everybody, sitting on a resistance ball. So the more you can engage your people by being just yourself and representing your mission as it is represented to the people you serve, I think the better your event's going to go. And definitely use Givebutter. It was incredible. It was really an incredible platform. So that's it for me, and I will happily pass off to Mark.
All right. Thanks, Michelle. A 24-hour telethon. That sounds like so much fun. Oh my gosh. I want to go back and like skim through and see the recording of that and see some of the fun things. That just sounds like so much fun. So congratulations on your success with that. For us at Trinity Habitat here in Fort Worth, earlier this year, we were starting to see the negative impacts of COVID on the work that we do, which is building quality and affordable homes in partnership with local families. And I mean, we, typically in a month have 800 volunteers out helping build homes, and we went to 0. We had corporate partners and individual donors who normally are right there supporting us, who just weren't in a position to give and support. And so we were looking for a way to engage as we started to think, maybe we're on our way out of COVID. We created our Habitat Builds Back campaign. And, we were, because of the challenges, we were in a position where we made the tough decisions. We were on track to build 59 new homes this year, and we decided to cut that in half. And we thought, okay, we really need to have this Builds Back campaign and see if maybe we can, some of those homes that we canceled, we could actually build those this year. And so that's where this campaign came in, and we set a $150,000 goal. And back when Rachel and I did our Givebutter interview before, we were right in the midst of it and working our way, and very happy that we actually exceeded that and raised $195,000. And, Givebutter is just a huge part of our success. We started the previous year with Givebutter. We were looking for, at the time, I know everybody's like looking for a different thing, live streaming or text to donate. For us, it was Venmo. We wanted a way for our donors to give in the most convenient, easy way possible and not have to fill out long forms and all these different things. And so we had some success with Givebutter starting the previous year, and we knew that they were the platform we wanted to use for our Habitat Builds Back campaign as well. And for every campaign we've done since, Givebutter is our central hub. So whether, even if we're sending out direct mail or different things, all of it comes back to the Givebutter platform, where people can follow that thermometer and see the donations growing and all of those things. And so for us, the live aspect for our Habitat Builds Back was we had a concert one evening with a local artist, Wynn Williams, who a lot of people enjoy. And it was just fun. We streamed through Facebook, and people, as he was playing, he was giving shout outs, thank you for this donation, thanks James, that's great. And all that. So that live aspect was a lot of fun for people to follow along. And it was something that we posted that it was coming up on the Givebutter page. And then as people got their confirmation emails, we would invite them to come and join us for this upcoming event. And for us, it wasn't necessarily central to our mission or anything, but everybody was stuck at home, and we were just looking for something fun, casual, easy, and a backyard concert with Wynn Williams was kind of our solution for that. So I'm gonna hand it over to Amanda now.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, everyone. So nice to be here. For those of you who are probably mostly unfamiliar with B'nai Jeshurun, BJ, as we call it affectionately, is the second oldest synagogue in New York City. We are 195 years of culture and tradition and progressive Judaism. We are often quoted as, the BJ creates and the world replicates. And so at a time where there was a lot of uncertainty, we had spent months and months and months on how we were going to plan a celebration for our outgoing board president and his wife, who are tremendous volunteers and supporters for the community. And we needed something that was going to raise money, but also be accessible to the community. And for months, we wrestled with what the ticket price should be and how we would get large gifts secured while still making it affordable and accessible. And then all of the planning went away, as it did for, it sounds like Wendy and I have very similar stories. So, and Wendy's not so far away from me, actually, from where she is. So the thinking in Manhattan, which was the epicenter of all of this, was we can't just ask people for money. They're dying right now. And I said, but we are changing lives. We are helping them. We have stories that can be told. We have people who have been uplifted. We have members who have been homebound and have not had contact with another person person for months at this point, and we should do something about it. And so we decided to pivot after a lot of deliberation to do this online fundraiser. My annual fund manager, Jennifer Rubenstein, received just like a random solicitation from Ari from Givebutter. I'm sure that we all get these emails as, you know, development professionals or engagement professionals. Hey, I'm selling you this, I'm selling you that. Here's a way that you can raise money that you've never tried before. And we ignore a lot of them, but we didn't ignore Ari's. It was really persuasive, and he's a very engaging person. And once we met Ari, then we met Max, and then we met Tori. And then it just turned, I was like, these are the nicest groups of people ever. And why wouldn't we test this out? You know, no one had ever heard of Givebutter before in my congregation. And I had said to Max and Rachel at one point, and at one point, you've never heard of YouTube and you've never heard of this or that. So let's just give it a try. All the money goes to us. And one of the ways that we did that was by planting a lead donor. So we had someone start us off. We knew that if someone saw someone giving, they would be inspired to do the same. So we asked, you know, we even made gifts ourselves, my team, to do this. And my development associate, Nicholas Arroyo, worked with our Salesforce administrator, Shira Kestenbaum, to integrate these gifts with Salesforce through something called Zapier. And each one of these gifts went directly into our Salesforce system. We had records of all of the accounts, which was amazing. Immediately, they received acknowledgments. Their tax letters will be successful as a result of it by the end of the year. And we raised $40,000. On the platform itself, we raised $13,000 within a week. But other cash and checks had come in the weeks that followed, and Givebutter gives you the opportunity to actually count those gifts towards your full goal by adding them back into your event, which is really amazing. Our event was a combination of both live and pre-recorded material. Some of the things that we couldn't control, like someone's microphone breaking in the middle of singing a song or playing an instrument, we pre-recorded. The video that's on the screen here, which you can't click, but you should check it out, was pre-recorded and included members sharing their story and what the community had done for them and uplifted them, whether they experienced a loss or their whole world shifted in such a short amount of time. And one of the things I think I appreciated the most in working with Givebutter was the ease of the administration. So aside from the adaptability and customization, which Tori afforded us, you know, can you change this? I don't necessarily like this word. Can you remove it? And it was just so easy to do. We were really appreciative of that. The administrative fees can be covered, and you can pass that on to your donors as well. And so it's one thing to say you donated $18, but your $18 is actually $16. And so thanks, but can I have the other dollar and change back? And so it was wonderful to see that we brought in over $1,000 in administrative fees that were covered. And that was so wonderful, number one, for the community, but it also meant that the money could go where it really needed to go. I think that we did a really good job of building connection across physical distance because of this platform, and we plan to use it multiple times for the rest of the year for our campaign. I think that's it for me. I'm gonna pass it over to Mandy.
Thanks, Amanda. So we too, like everyone on the panel, had to adjust pretty quickly. Our event actually took place in July, but prior to that, one of the key pieces of our mission is a farmers market that we run. And so our first responsibility was figuring out how we were going to launch a farmers market virtually, because all of the markets in Chicago where our organization is located were closed down. And so we had to pivot pretty quickly on the event side of it once we had that sorted out. And for us, one of the biggest pieces that we wanted to figure out was that integration with our CRM, because we're a really tiny team. And so we didn't want to have to re-enter all of these gifts that were coming in after the fact. And so we really thought about what is a tool that we can use that's going to make our lives a bit easier and still reach everyone that we need to reach. And so that's one of the reasons we chose Givebutter. I have said consistently throughout that the customer service is the reason I think that we will stay with Givebutter, because all the questions that we had were answered, and even questions that were outside of their technology, they helped us sort out, because we did a combination of live content, pre-recorded content, and a Zoom that was happening. And we were using a system called Switcher Studios to kind of connect all of those pieces. And so Givebutter helped us figure out how Switcher Studios would interact with their system so everyone could watch the event right on that page and donate right there as well. I think that's one of the reasons the live event was so successful, was because people could watch it and give all in one place, which was really really phenomenal. So we actually now, this says that we raised $22,000. We're actually up over $31,000 for this campaign because we've done some really great post-event communications to get people going back and watching the event even after they missed it. I'm sure there are a lot of you watching this actually. So right now we're live, but I'm sure many people will go back and watch it as recorded content at a later time. And that was something that you could do for our event as well. It's still up there and still live now. So it was really wonderful to get some longevity in life out of something that we put a lot of effort into on the front. That was really wonderful. And I think for us, the main thing that we were looking out of the event itself was Chef Barbecue for Green City Market. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year, and it is very much an experiential event. So it's 3,000 people in a park enjoying incredible food from 100 different chefs and partners. And so we really had to think about, how do we bring that experience to people in their homes, and what's missing about our live event that we can use this virtual experience as an opportunity to actually do something that we can't do in our live event, or that we hadn't really done in our live event. And that was to really connect the people watching to the mission and what Green City Market does beyond the wonderful farmers market that we put on all year long. So that was a great opportunity, I think, for us, again, to just really connect things that that we weren't able to do in the live event, and use that as a framework for planning the event. How do we make this challenge into an opportunity to build new supporters and strengthen relationships with folks who've been supporting us for years at Green City Market? So yeah, and I just, it's been phenomenal. I think we've learned a lot. I've been talking with Max and Rachel about different things that we can do to actually get even more out of the system in future campaigns. So I'm really excited to continue on and keep learning. And I believe Wendy kicked us off with saying, like, you just have to try it. That's something that I said as well. None of us knew what we were doing when we were putting this together. And so we just said, we can either raise $0 or we can raise something. Let's just try. And we'll learn from it, and we'll get better, and we'll be even more successful in the next go around. So I say to anyone watching, just dive right in, ask questions, and I think you'll be pretty surprised by how successful you can be.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you all so much. That was incredible. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So hopefully, if you're watching, hopefully you now see everyone in sort of a gallery view, maybe a speaker view. I don't know. I've heard it switches webinar to webinar. So, but great to see you all here, and thank you for walking through those your events. One thing I forgot to mention is that, for anyone watching, and I know Rachel's been throwing some links in the chat, which is really great and helpful. These are all actually like full-length success stories. Everyone here has recorded a in-depth, like 15 to 25-minute video going in detail about some of the ins and outs and nuances of their events and campaigns. So we have the links to the events, I believe, in the chat, but we'll send the slides after, and you'll have access to, not just this webinar, of course, but all of the sort of individual, if you see an event or someone that you've feels relatable here that you want to get a little bit more in depth on their specific event and how that works, definitely recommend checking that out after. But we have everyone here now, so I have some amazing questions we've gotten from people as you've been talking. So Sue Keith asked, how do we incentivize? I think it's a question that a lot of people have when they think about a virtual event, is like, who's going to show up? It's a virtual event. This is not an in-person event. It's a virtual event, and that virtual piece changes a lot. So instead of talking less about the sort of logistics of pulling off a virtual event, more about, and Mark, actually, I want to start with you. You mentioned, I think in our Facebook group, we were talking about, we have a Givebutter fan Facebook group. So anyone who's, maybe we can drop a link there where we can keep the conversation going after. But Mark, I think you mentioned about one of the hardest things about a virtual event is driving engagement and getting folks to attend. And Sue was wondering, if we get a donor, someone who gives maybe before, leading up to an event, how do we know, is that person going to come? Are they going to attend? And how do we sort of incentivize or encourage them to attend? I love starting with you because you had that virtual event. It's kind of in the middle of a larger campaign. So if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for us with the incentive, because I mean, was just providing something that we felt would be fun. That was the biggest piece was, I think people are, especially now, people are, I think, getting a little bit even more kind of virtual fatigue, and we've got to be really creative, whether it's a 24-hour telethon or, or just really, inspiring stories from the families that are, or the recipients of the service. And in our case, it was, our biggest incentive was just, let's do something fun, something, that we know local people really like Wynn Williams. And so that was kind of the piece for us that was the hook to get people to attend.
Awesome. I want to keep it moving. So if anyone has anything to add, just jump in, but I have there's so many questions coming in. So I want to make sure we cover a lot of ground. And I love that answer. I think something that stuck out for me is exactly what you said, Mark, is everyone's event is so different. And what I take away is not, here's how you do it, here's the engagement mechanism. It's how do you build content that's relatable to your audience? It's, that's just the story of, I think, the next generation is just like you follow content that you feel interested in, you relate to, it's authentic, it's interesting. And that is sort of where a lot of the social media stuff has already been heading for a long time. And sticking to your roots, doing an event that fits who you are, I think is probably one of the most important takeaways for me there. Wendy, we had a question for you about your stream. So I know that you worked with our friends, Frank and Karen over at EXV. So I could also kind of fill in some blanks here, but someone wanted to know, and I think everyone could maybe do a quick chip in on what software you use to actually stream. Did you use YouTube? Did you use Facebook? And if there was any reason why you used one or the other, I think someone touched upon that briefly, but I know everyone's always like, what technology? What's the thing to use? There's StreamYard, there's this, there's that. So Wendy, did you stream direct to Givebutter? I know it was a pre-recorded video which you streamed, but then did you also stream that to other places? And I know you had a live event after too on Zoom. So maybe you want to talk about that briefly.
Yeah. Well, I will leave it to Max because that technical piece of the matching for the live stream was really important, and it depends on what your content is. And we had a lot of visual, movement on video, and so all that had to take in consideration. So you really need to talk to your team. We did do the Zoom dance party afterwards, and when you talk about engaging people, that was a hoot. I just, the thing is when people say, who you can reach out to, the fortunate thing you can do with a virtual event is you're going to include so many more people, the people who couldn't afford a ticket to go to your event. And so for us, especially because we serve so many underserved youth, there were more parents, there were more kids. You should have seen our Zoom dance party. Everybody was doing cartwheels, back then, to back handsprings. I mean, whether they were young or old. But it was just an opportunity. That part of it made everybody connect. And they just love seeing everyone just moving and dancing. And then for them to see them on the event, right? When we do our live event, in the past, we had brought our top gymnasts, right? Maybe 20 gymnasts to the event in a room. But how we had all of our class kids. And so they were all part of it. And then their parents are part of it. So it just grows and grows. And it's a pretty easy thing to do. It's not like you got to get out and go anywhere. You just got to turn on your computer and join in. So I definitely see that, how to engage people and how to get them to watch. But I think you'd be very surprised that maybe the big donor may not be watching, but other people may. And he can say, I'm doing this event, or she can say this, and many more people can get involved. So from the technical end, I will pass it on to Max because it was a little cray-cray, but it was great. And that was the most important thing, is that it was a really fun, engaging event.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Wendy. So we used Vimeo Livestream. It's sort of their premium version of Vimeo. I think it's $75 a month. And we just used it for a month. I think it was you go month to month if we cancel or something like that. And the magic there was, it was a pre-recorded video that felt live. Like Wendy said, check out their event. You go to it. It felt like an ESPN special. It was really, really well done. And it was like, Wendy also, I think, recorded it on Zoom, or it looked like Wendy was actually like there real time saying, welcome to our event. And it felt like she was really there. And that was on Vimeo live stream. So it was just hosted on Vimeo, but put on a Givebutter page, which was where everyone was watching. So they could watch and donate in the same place. And so there's the comment thread kind of coming, and people could sort of engage in the supporter feed. But then the really special part was they had also a Zoom after party, which was hosted privately on Zoom. So anyone who attended the live stream, even if you came in at 8:10, the event was already 10 minutes in. So it went live at 8 p.m. If I just tuned in at 8:10, it was at 10 minutes in. So everyone was on the same track. It wasn't like a recorded YouTube video that showed up at 8. It went, kind of like that. So it was really cool. And after, at 8:45, there was a Zoom event, which was private and not a webinar format. It was like a conference, so everyone could see each other, and it was very engaging. I did not dance, but it was funny. I did like, it was definitely entertaining. So yeah, and speaking to your audience there, I think that was such a great format. Okay, so one question actually, before I do, can we just go around, maybe starting with Michelle, just touch on your software. What did you use to stream, like technically? The Givebutter was a piece of that, but did you Zoom to YouTube, or how did you stream it?
So we did stream through Facebook. One limitation I will put out there is that there's a time limit on Facebook streams. So we had to have a moment where we switched and started a new stream. It did go smoothly. I have a fantastic technical team. And we were talking to the technology gods, but overall that part went really well. So we chose Facebook because that's where the majority of our audience is, and we felt like we would have the most engagement there.
Awesome. How about Amanda? You want to touch on what you used to stream?
Sure. So our situation is a little different. We deal with the same group of constituents week after week. These are people who are either members of the community or find us in other ways. So we actually offer a members only experience for our Shabbat services on Friday nights, where you can come in a Zoom room with the rabbis. And so we'll have like 300 people who are in that room. And then we restream through YouTube and Facebook. And we were going to go directly from YouTube Live into the Givebutter page, but the rabbis felt like what was more important was not only that they could see them, but that people could see each other. That's really what was missing with an event. I mean, when we're talking about bridging this physical distance so that we can have a social connection, if you can't see the other people that are there, it's even more isolating from home. So we actually did a stream from Zoom through to the pages, and we also did YouTube and Facebook, and we had engagement across all platforms. I had like multiple windows open and was monitoring all the comments at the same time, and as money was coming in, people were putting things in the chat on Zoom, and I was trying to push people in other places. And I think that it worked for us. In the future, what we plan to do is to do something I'll have to talk to Michelle afterwards. We wanted to do for our annual appeal, a phone-a-thon. We knew that some of our major donors were not going to make gifts through Zoom, although I can actually say a couple days ago, we received a $10,000 gift, which was really excited. But to push people to Givebutter, I think, is an easier approach. So we're going to be using probably YouTube Live to get people in to our next phone-a-thon. What can we call it? Is it like, it's not a telethon, it's not a phone-a-thon. It's like a butter-a-thon.
It's a butter-a-thon. Yep. That's awesome. How about Mandy? You want to piggyback on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we used a system called Switcher Studio. So as I mentioned, we had some pre-recorded content. We had chef demos, and then we had those chef demos were interspersed with a live Q&A that was happening on Zoom that was connected through Switcher Studios. And then we also had a Facebook Live happening as well. So Switcher Studios was essentially like that media console that was saying, okay, now cue the Zoom, now cue the recorded video one, now cue back to the Facebook Live. And so what that did, it made the production of it a bit more interactive. So you weren't just watching straight on like just watching someone talk the entire time. For us, it was also super seamless, and all of it came through beautifully on Givebutter. And I think that great thing about that for us was that we were then able to repurpose that pre-recorded content segmented out after the event. So we sent a series of emails where we highlighted one chef and really dove into his story and just showed his video. So for us, that worked really well. We did have those videos professionally produced, but I have to say, depending on what your mission is, I don't think that that's necessary. I think that you can do some really beautiful, wonderful videos just shot with your iPhone or whatever phone device you have. So don't get intimidated, I think, when you see things that look super professionally produced. We're a team of 5 full-time staff at Green City Market, and the event looks like there are many more people behind the scenes, I think, than there actually were. So you can do a lot with a little.
I would like double down on that point, Mandy. That's awesome. I think it's striking too when you describe the production and your team that it just, you're like, I wouldn't expect that this is a team. It's extremely well done. The professional shots, multiple angles, it's like very, very, very well done. So that's awesome, actionable feedback right there. Switching gears a little bit. And Mark, sorry, I want to hear from you as well.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Many
So
of you.
we use Facebook Live as well for our event, and for us, it was just kind of that, have that interaction of, because it was a concert, people like to do their little hearts and their, their reactions as they're going along, and people were putting in song requests and different things in the comments. The main thing for us, with that was that even though we were streaming through Facebook Live, we never really promoted the Facebook link or it through, it was, once it goes live on Facebook, it's going to be pushed out on Facebook. But for us, it's all, as I've said, Givebutter is always the central hub. So we always promoted the link to Givebutter as, because it was something that was going to happen, later on in the campaign. We always gave that link back to Givebutter as the place to go to see the live stream. Don't go to Facebook. We didn't say don't go to Facebook. We just said go to this link instead. So,
right. You may have mentioned this, but like even the little things like putting a URL in the description or something, or on a banner. I've seen a lot of nonprofits use even text to donate, which you might think put that on a billboard or something at your in-person event. You can put that on a banner for your video, because even if you're on Facebook watching, you can still see a banner and then punch in a code to a phone number or something like that. Did you use anything like that, Mark, or was it mostly like the notification was just sort of supplementary, but you still kind of held Givebutter as the hub?
Yeah, so I think it's a premium Givebutter feature to be able to have the URL, but we actually use on our website a redirect, so that we always, the URL we promote is like trinityhabitat.org/buildsback or whatever, and that always redirects to Givebutter. And so that for us, whether it's in the banners or in the confirmation email or whatever, they would see, join us back at trinityhabitat.org/buildsback for Win Williams Live or whatever like that.
It's awesome. Mark is one of the most inspiring people to me in terms of your fundraising pages. You use features that I'm like, I didn't even know you could do that with like a web page. So maybe Mark, if you can drop in your most recent campaign too, the Build Strong season coming up. It looks like a website. I'm blown away. It's very well formatted. And if you scroll throughout the page, there are buttons that pull up our donate flow and stuff. It's really, really, really cool. Okay, so we have a couple questions about offline donations and post-event donations. So this is, these are virtual events we're talking about, but we all know we're still going to get checks in the mail, folks who want to, give in other ways or other routes outside of Givebutter. Could you all talk about how you maybe used or didn't use that functionality, and how that is an interesting way to build momentum when you start your campaign? So before you even launch, inputting a couple offline donations just to kind of get things going, or after, as checks and things still continue to roll in, updating it to show your total progress, because a lot of the campaigns here show a certain dollar amount. Like Mandy mentioned about, you had, since we did the success story, there's another maybe $10,000 have come in. Amanda, we updated it right before the event. You're like, oh, actually, we went from 12 to 40 since that last. So Amanda, maybe you start there talking about how offline donations or just donations outside of Givebutter can kind of pair that together for a full fundraising experience?
Yeah, I think that you have to understand your audience, and you know, it's a cultural shift to put your money somewhere, especially in a digital age. People are not always comfortable putting a credit card number in a place they've never seen before, even if you direct them. But the familiarity of the giving platform and the ease of use really convinced a lot of people. But for many people who give larger amounts, that give from a foundation, for instance, that even if they are comfortable, they don't have the ability to you know, put something in there. I will give a shout out to Tori, who's been very patient. I've asked for ACH functionality to be built in so that more people could do transfers from bank accounts, you know, to pay through automated clearinghouse. But other people who gave checks directly to BJ and wanted it counted towards the event, we actually didn't know we could do that early on. And now we've been able to reflect back, and we just had our annual meeting yesterday, actually, and to be able to show that there was support online is very new for us. We're not very public with giving. One of the things of a Jewish institution is like to actually be anonymous to give is like the highest form of giving. And we're trying to change that. It sounds terrible, but I think inspiring other people to give is great. And the wonderful thing about Givebutter's platform is that you can give anonymously. And so I really was trying to push people, like, I know you want to give us the check directly, but you can just say that it's anonymous and give it online, and it would inspire others to do the same. And people started doing that. So I think that if you can't convince someone to give online because they're concerned about putting their credit card in a new place, or they're giving from a foundation, it's great to know that you can insert those gifts there. Because just like Mark had said, we also push people to the Givebutter page. We didn't send them to our website or our Facebook page. Like if they were curious, they wanted to make a gift, it was just Givebutter/celebration. Like we didn't even put it anywhere else because that's just where we wanted the money to be.
Just to add to that, Max, we also were able, because of the offline, our ability to list those offline donations, we were able to use those for matching donations. So on our telethon, I was like, okay, someone just pledged $5,000 to me by text. If we can raise $5,000 in the next hour, we met every single one of those goals. And so we got to $85,000, which is the most we've ever raised on an online platform. And actually, it's the most we've ever raised at a single event in the history of our organization in the last 12 years. But one of the key elements was being able to say, you know, we knew, so of course we had a few preset donors who we knew we could count on. And in the past, our community supporters have really kind of responded well to that matching idea, but it was incredible to watch. And you got to see it on Givebutter, and they got to see it on Givebutter. So they got to see that number was climbing, and it was building this wonderful momentum that ended up matching every single one of the donations we got as matching. So that was really a fantastic way to use those offline donations.
Yeah, and just to build on that, Michelle, we also used matching gifts, and you know, we tried not to overuse it throughout the year, but we found that it's a way to go to our larger donors and say, would you be willing to do a matching gift, because your gift will not only serve our families, but it'll inspire others to give more generously, because we've seen when people see my donation is going to be doubled, you know, my $10 donation is going to become 20. People get really excited about that. And so, you know, we were sure to, as gifts came in, every once in a while, we just kind of cumulatively do an offline kind of donation of like, hey, here's the latest $1,000 in matching gifts, so that matching gift was moving the thermometer up as well, and people could kind of see that. So I definitely agree with Michelle that the matching gift is a great option.
I think one other thing that I would add about offline donations as well is that many of our live events likely included sponsorship donations in the past. And so adding our offline sponsorship checks also really helped to show the impact and give those sponsors a bit of recognition. We sold digital assets to our sponsors this year. And so one thing you'll see in the Chef Barbecue event is the 30-second commercial that we queued up through our Switcher Studios as a part of an asset that we sold to a sponsor, and we were able to add that offline gift into Givebutter to show that it contributed towards the total. And then on the back end of the event, as Max said, we've raised another, almost $10,000 after the event. A lot of those donations are also offline gifts that our restaurant partners, that we drove participants to be ordering from specific restaurants who were creating meals using our farmers' products. They donated a portion of those sales back to Green City Market. And so that total donation back from the restaurants was able to be added, which just gave those restaurants a little bit of extra love and promotion as well for their support of Green City. So I think that you can use that on both the front end and the back end of your website. And it's a great way to just make sure that everyone who's contributing to the event gets the recognition that they're looking for.
Okay, we have so many really good questions, guys. So I thought a fun way to do this next one, because I think it's really valuable. People want to know what time of day or what day of the week did you have your events? Like, when should we do a school night? Should we do a weekend? Just by a show of hands, and hopefully if you don't have gallery view on, maybe put that on. Did you have how many people had their event during the day? Like basically before 6 p.m. So that was like when you started your event. So Michelle
we did it all day long.
All day long, yeah, exactly.
We didn't start until noon. Well, we started at 10 a.m. one day and at noon the next day, or vice versa, actually. We started at noon on Friday, we went until midnight, then we started at 10 a.m. on Saturday, we went till 10 p.m.
Got it. That makes sense. I also was wondering, like, how did you actually go 24 hours? You stopped and started. Okay, so now I'm clear on that. Thanks. Yeah. Good. And then, so I guess everyone else did night. So Amanda, Mark, and Wendy, and Mandy all later half of the day. And then how many people did it on a weekend? Let's include Saturday and Sunday or Friday night in that, a weekend or a weekend night. So Michelle, so most others did a weeknight. That's interesting. So anyone want to just quickly jump in on like one or two, any like reasons why you chose, Amanda?
I think that people were feeling Zoom overload when we did our event in June. And we knew that if we could cut it to an hour and change, we would have more success than people who have taken a breath, relaxed, maybe not had to work that day, signing onto the computer. Even if they weren't leaving their homes, which at our point, they were still in quarantine, it just still felt like a shift at the end of the day. And it was really successful for us to do it that way.
Awesome. Another question here. Did anyone have a real life component to their event? That could include like a delivery. I've heard someone delivering a bottle of wine before your event or something like that. Raise your hand if you had an in-person component of any kind. Everyone was all virtual. Cool. Mm-hmm. Then going forward, as we think, pandemic and on, we don't know. There's a lot of unknown, right? As optimistic as I'd like to be, thinking, as soon as possible, we're all going to be doing an in-person Givebutter ButterCon. How are you thinking about your events? Do you think there is a place or room for an in-person or a hybrid component for your next event? If you do, maybe jump in, or if you have a strong opinion why we're staying virtual for the foreseeable future, I'd open it to anyone who was sort of, how are you thinking about your next virtual event?
For us, we've got our Build Strong season coming up, and we have multiple things going on. Some virtual, some in person. So not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, we actually are doing a drive-in movie. We are showing The Wizard of Oz. We have a drive-in theater here in Fort Worth, and we chose Wizard of Oz because there's no place like home, especially in 2020. And so we will be using text to donate, and we'll have little goodie bags and their welcome packages. They drive in with the, kind of instructions to give and our brochures and all that. And so we just kind of felt like, okay, we've been doing the virtual thing. We need to find some way to safely bring people together, but also have that giving component as well. And so that's kind of our drive-in movie has been our hybrid solution.
Yeah, I would say that we are really looking more to take advantage of the virtual. Next year is our 25th anniversary, right? So if you're having an planning event, you would have started already, because you just have to meet those deadlines. But already in my head, I'm really thinking that we're going to do virtual, and then maybe if we can get together, just have a party. I mean, because, and I think everyone should realize this, that the expenses are so much less with virtual, no matter what you do. And that's a good consideration to think about, and which we thought about, and you should think about that moving forward. It made me really think that. I would say also, the one thing I did want to mention, you said after the fact. So we were reaching out to the champion gymnasts, and one of the gymnasts wasn't able to join us in time for our event. But she, like a month later, sent a message, Simone Biles. That's right, she sure did. And she said, I want to support the Wendy Hilliard Foundation, go to Givebutter, flip it forward. And it was just, you know, the thing is, the one thing that this does is it really allows people to join in on their time, and it's really personal. So I'm really committed to virtual for a while, definitely.
That's awesome. Okay, I think we have time for one more question. I'm going to say the question, and then you can take it however you want. I'd love everyone to just chime in and kind of close out all in one. So I'm going to start with you, Mandy. It's sort of a question similar to like thinking about in-person versus hybrid events. But looking back, like if you could do it all over again, would you do anything different? And then like, how are you going to sort of take that lesson and bring it to your next event, or your next sort of fundraising? Like, what did you learn? What was sort of the most surprising things that you learned from your experience?
Absolutely. So we don't have any peer-to-peer style events at Green City Market. And so when we started with our chef barbecue, we really planned it as just a fund and need style giving method where people were just giving outright donations, and we didn't use the peer-to-peer element of Givebutter. But I actually had board members coming to me after the fact. It'd be really great if there'd be a way for us to, you know, ask our friends to give and to have that go towards our pages. And that's like a development director's dream, to have people coming to you saying, how can we use this as a fundraiser with our networks? So I definitely think that we will be activating that peer-to-peer element and really, you know, talking with our key supporters to leverage their networks and giving as well, and hopefully spreading the love a bit wider.
Awesome.
That's, I think, the main thing. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so 1 minute. We're going to go reverse the way we started. So Amanda, I think then Mark, Michelle, and then Wendy to close us out.
I learned that not everyone knows what text to give means. We had to educate a lot of people. They thought that it charged their phone bill. They thought a lot of things. And I think in the future, we'll probably do a little 30-second tutorial on the safety and efficiency of doing text to give. It really works for our younger demographic. And once our older demographic, we're not texting the synagogue, which is not a phone number they can text. It all worked out. So I would definitely promote text to give. It also keeps people on your page if you're not using the live stream function on Givebutter's page.
Yeah, and whenever we have text to give, we also have our little short habgift.org link right there as well. So the people who love text to give and feel comfortable with it, that's what they do. Otherwise, just type habgift.org into your URL, and it redirects to the Givebutter page. So for us, just always having that secondary URL option, you know, works.
I'll go with what my surprises were. One was that 40% of our donations were from new donors. And so having the opportunity to go virtual and interact with people who have never, you know, been introduced to your mission was super exciting. We also re-engaged over 40 different donors who hadn't given in over 2 years. So that was an exciting part of what was happening as well. And I'll just say in closing that part of the reason why the telethon worked is because the people who were participating as acts were part of our community and they engaged their community. And so one of the ways that would definitely, Mandy, looking for the same sort of peer-to-peer, like they would have loved it if they said, my time is from 5 to 5:30. Come on, you guys, let's see how much money we can raise. So it was really exciting to see the engagement on a much broader scale than we would have been able to do in person for sure.
So is it me? Well, I will just say that,
Wendy.
bring us home. I would go back to say you have to do it. It's one of those things that, like other events, they get better as you do them over and over again, and we're all learning. I'm going to take more advantage of the peer-to-peer. I love the idea about the digital commercial. Yeah, I wrote that one down because it's great ideas. The thing that's great is that this is a very creative area, and you can really even do more branding for what you do, and it just gives you a bigger platform. So I would just say go with it, and Givebutter will be there to help you hold your hand and get you there.
And I would just add one last thing. I didn't realize that was my last thing, but you know, we've used a lot of different fundraising platforms, and Givebutter was the affordable option that gave us so many features and just keeps adding features. And every time I write them, and I'm like, hey, what about this? And it's like, that's in the works, or we just released that a week ago. So, you know, we've used a lot of platforms, but Givebutter is the one that's affordable, that's growing, that's adding features, that's meeting the needs of their people. And I just really encourage, you know, if you aren't totally engaged with them yet, to really use Givebutter.
What a note to end on, Mark. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Mandy, Amanda, Michelle, Wendy, Mark, and everyone in the chat. You guys were awesome in tuning in live. We're at the top of the hour, and everyone here is super busy, so I'm going to end it. But thank you, and we had a request for a part 3, so maybe we can take more of your time. We'll do a reverse in a year and see what the latest and greatest is. Thank you all so much, and we'll hopefully see you at the next one.